Over the past few days, there has been a storm brewing with reservations and Magic Key holders. Last week, we reported that there was a fairly dramatic increase in the rate with which reservations were being booked. Where at once it was pretty easy to get most days that you wanted, suddenly reservations were going fast, especially weekends. Then the OC Register published an article on Tuesday where they spoke about the increased dissatisfaction with some guests with how Disney was handling the reservation system. But then yesterday, Disney responded, where once the October calendar looked like this, suddenly looked like that. It's a fascinating development, so much so that I had to pivot the actual video that I'm making right now. So drastic was the reversal in this story. So, of course, the question is, what happened? And not just with the vanishing reservation dates that we saw the past few days, but also with that reversal that we saw on Wednesday. Well, for starters, I don't have any inside information, and certainly Disney is not going to talk about what they're doing publicly. They're not going to just reveal their methods here. Here's what we do know. We know that everybody has to make a reservation, from single-day ticket holders all the way to Dream Keys. We also know that there's more than one bucket. That is, Magic Key holders have a bucket from which they pull reservations that is entirely separate from a bucket from which the single-day ticket holders pull their reservations. This is no secret, by the way. It's obvious to anyone paying attention when you compare the two calendars at the same time. Where October was almost completely booked in this calendar, the month was completely wide open for single-day tickets. This can be true only if the two are operating from a separate crop of reservations. Now, once you make that observation, then you get to talk about something that is a little bit more interesting. If that is the case, if there are separate buckets, then how many are there? How many are in each bucket? Are they the same? And if not, who's getting more reservations? Are single-day tickets getting more reservations, or are annual pass holders getting more reservations? Also, with respect to Magic Keys, are there separate buckets for each of those? Do the Magic Keys pull from one bucket, or is there a separate bucket for each Magic Key? Now, I don't know the answer to any of those questions for certain, but what I can do is make some very informed, educated guesses. For example, I can say with pretty good confidence that the majority of a day's worth of reservations, let's say 40,000. Let's say they're going to allow 40,000 people in the park on a given day, and therefore they have 40,000 reservation slots to issue. I can say pretty confidently that the vast majority of those 40,000 reservations are going to single-day ticket holders. I would guess probably, 3 to 1, 30,000 single-day tickets. And this is initially 30,000 single-day reservations and 10,000 for Magic Keys. And that's when that's when the day first becomes available 60 days in advance, or 90 days, sorry. Then every day, Disney scrapes the single-day ticket bucket for reservations, or tickets, if you will, that they don't think they're going to sell. Those reservations are moved from the single-day bucket to the AP bucket. Then the closer that we get to a given date, the more reservations are pushed. The more aggressive Disney gets in moving single-day tickets to reservation or to the AP bucket. And by the way, this should come as no surprise to anybody. Anybody who's paying half attention should know that this was a thing that was going to happen, or that it would happen. It's obvious, it's logical to presume that Disney would favor, under this system, single-day tickets over annual pass holders. They've already collected your monthly fee for that Magic Key, so why not try to double up, for lack of a better phrase? Why not try to fill the park as much as possible with single-day ticket holders, and then round it off with annual pass holders? So whatever tickets they can't sell for single days, those move over to annual pass holders. I mean, they're getting their batch to start with, but that does sort of impact how quickly reservations are taken for annual passes versus how often they're taken or how frequently they sell it for single day tickets. Evidence the calendars. If you were to look at the calendar right now for single day tickets and for annual pass holders, they're going to look completely different. Drastically different. Meanwhile, in doing this and setting aside as many of those dates as possible initially, 90 days out, setting those dates aside makes it more attractive, receptive for, let's say, a vacation or somebody coming in from out of state, families that visit once a year or something like that. The more open the calendar looks to them, the more likely they are going to make a decision to visit Disneyland. Now, that is not surprising. That part of it I was fully on board with. I expected that. It's a trade-off that we made to get annual passes back. But what I was not expecting was what we saw these past few days, for the monthly calendar for October to be completely obliterated. I personally made my buying decision. When you talk about, Disney disclosed this up front. They said up front, subject to availability. We all know that. I made my decision to do it anyway, based on the understanding, the assumption that yes, it would be more difficult to get all the days you want. It wouldn't be as easy as it used to be because it was 100% easy. You just showed up. That's all you had to do. I understood that was no longer going to be the case, but I still felt like with reasonable confidence that I would be able to get most days that I wanted. And I was expecting to have to work for it a little bit. I was expecting that I would have to watch the calendar and be ready to book a reservation when it became available, or make that decision, make more decisions than I'm used to having to make. But if you had shown me that October calendar, I don't know if I would have purchased an annual pass if you had shown me the October calendar that was live just yesterday. That is where a lot of Magic Key holders, present day Magic Key holders, or people who are on the fence are looking at. They're saying, how can I buy a Magic Key under those conditions? How can I, a pass that is supposed to allow me to go to the park frequently at my leisure, when I see that makes me not want to buy a pass. Obviously, right? It's a very understandable question. And actually, the video that I was going to make on this topic was to address that question, because as I mentioned before, I did feel like this was not a permanent situation, that even though that October, calendar looked really scary and drastic, I was confident that was not a permanent situation and that Disney would adjust. I figured this because there's no way that Disney would allow that situation to continue, knowing how bad it would be for business. I believe that because you just can't. Not only that, plus you've got the situation in Walt Disney World. We had almost an identical situation happen at Walt Disney World when the parks first opened up. It was very difficult for annual pass holders to make a reservation. Meanwhile, it was super easy for guests of the hotels and single day ticket holders. This didn't make big news here on the West Coast at the time, but I was aware of it because I was following it. But that was a situation that they dealt with. Now today, they've gotten through that, and it's fairly easy, as I understand it, to make a reservation these days. It's not. I mean, it's still not like it used to be, but it's not near as competitive as it was then. So while I found the situation to be a little bit shocking, I was confident that something like this would happen. So to that end, a better question that we might want to ask is, why? Why did this happen? Why did we have that situation with the October calendar? And my best guess is that Disney had an internal change in policy with regard to how they were distributing reservations. Something was not going the way they wanted or expected to. So I guess for lack of a better phrase, they froze the process. They slowed down the rate with which they were releasing reservations so that they could, to use Chapek's words from just last week, get the right mix of guests. And it could very well be the right mix of Magic Key holders. One question that I asked earlier was, were Magic Keys all working from the same single bucket, or was there a separate bucket for Dream, a separate bucket for Believe, a bucket for Enchant, and a bucket for Imagine? I think initially, they were all working from the same bucket, but now it's possible that Disney's trying to separate those keys into individual buckets and doling out and parsing reservations in between each at a rate which gets a certain amount of Believes and a certain amount of Dreams into the parks at the frequency that they want. And one reason why I think that is the case is the weekends. This is something that we talked about last week, that the weekends were getting booked up more frequently, quicker than they had been in the past. They were becoming more competitive. Dream keys, and to a lesser extent Believe keys, but both keys, typically the common Dream Key holder wants the weekends. That's why you get a Dream Key, so that you can go on the weekends, because those days are not blocked out, whereas they are for other passes. But if those weekends, and this is a point I made again last week, if those weekend dates are getting harder to get, then what is the allure? What is the allure to having a Dream Key? What is the point of having a Dream Key? Disney could be successful in converting that Dream Key holder into a weekday visitor, much like it has happened for me and for Liz. We're going in during the week more often and less on the weekends. But in doing so, you also run the risk of converting that Dream Key holder into an Enchant Key holder, because why bother paying $1,400 if I can't go on the weekends anyway? Maybe they don't renew at all. And that is a sentiment that was being expressed in that article from the OC Register, and that I'm seeing on social media quite a bit. Why? So it's possible that what Disney's trying to do is find a way to create more weekends for Dream Key and Believe Key holders. Now, this by the way, let me just say at this point is entirely purely conjecture on my part. I am supposing this to be the case. I don't know anything inside. I'm just trying to use my intellect and be able to infer possibilities, because one thing I can say is that whatever it was that was happening was not an accident. It was not a bunch of Magic Key holders suddenly deciding that they all wanted to book reservations. Not overnight, not like that, not to the degree that it happened. It was an action taken by Disney with intent. What that intent was, I'm not sure. And I can also say that I don't believe that it's necessarily nefarious, meaning I don't think that Disney was trying to be, what's the word I'm looking for? People want to make them out to be the villain in this, which, I mean, I suppose I could understand why they would, but what they could be doing is trying to make it better. They're obviously massaging the system, but it could be that they're trying to make it better and more balanced so that the people who are paying $1,400 for a Dream Key are getting their money's worth. But having said all that, this story is not fully written yet. One thing that we can learn from this for sure is that Disney is massaging the reservation system. And if they've done it before, they can just as easily do it again. Again, not necessarily for nefarious reasons, but because they need to. So just be aware of that. Be mindful of seeing a calendar like October and not, panicking or whatever. And just, you have to be a little bit patient and work a little bit harder. That's all. And that, Fresh Baked, is why you watch Fresh Baked, because we are watching this calendar like a hawk. We're watching this closer than practically anybody on the planet. We're watching this calendar and we're learning from this so that you don't have to. All you have to do is watch Fresh Baked. So try to stay calm, everybody. I know this is not an ideal situation. The reservation system is not my favorite thing. I'm trying to work with it and not against it, and trying to be patient, and hopefully you all can too. Until next time, guys, be sure to follow us on Instagram at _FreshBaked, on Twitter at FreshBakedDisney, that's fresh with no E, and on TikTok at FreshBakedDisney. And if you like our show and would like to show your support, please do consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/freshbaked. Otherwise, thanks for watching, everybody. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked.